Gift the remarkable with Marc Jacobs fragrances this holiday season. From the iconic Daisy and Perfect to the all-new Daisy Wild, Marc Jacobs perfume gift sets include everything she needs to feel special. From her favorite fragrance, plus the matching travel spray, holiday gifts don't get much more perfect than this. So if you're looking for a gift inspiration these holidays, gift the remarkable with Marc Jacobs.
Money decisions don't have to be either or. With Bank of America, they can be yes and. Like yes to sunny vacations and rainy day funds. Can our digital tools and guidance help you create the future you want? Yes. And help you keep enjoying today too. Do more with a bank that asks, what would you like the power to do? Explore our tips and more at bankofamerica.com/yes and.
All right. Welcome back.
Fit Nation.
So, Victoria, why don't you tell us a little bit about your backstory, how you started and how you wound up on HSN with your jewelry and into where we are now?
Yeah, so I came here as a immigrant with my parents in 1971. And at the time, Korea had gone through, it was about a few years after Korea had gone through a civil war that divided North and South. And it was run by a military junta at that time. So and the Korean culture was to kind of like elevate boys. Girls weren't really allowed to go out and kind of earn a living. Those girls were kind of looked down upon. So since my dad had 4 girls, he really felt that America was where he wanted his girls to grow up. And he didn't have anything against, stay-at-home moms or whatever you wanted to do, but he wanted his girls to have let that be her choice, not the society's choice. So he came here where we were all told that it's the promised land. In America, all dreams actually do come true. So we came here, and the next day after we woke up, we found out all our money were frozen in both countries. So we kind of had to survive on the $30 that were still in my father's pocket. So life was pretty tough for the first couple of years. I watched my parents actually go to work for the first time. My mom especially, never worked because, women didn't go to work back then. She never worked before. And, she went to work in a sewing factory. I mean, from like dusk to dawn to dusk, it was very, very sad. So from that beginning, my American dream at that time was just to, be able to sort of buy my own car at one point in my life and be able to own my own, like pay rent in my own apartment as opposed to sharing it with my 5 siblings and all. And I reached that dream. And then when I became an adult, I wanted to kind of make sure that I can spend time with my kids, because that's the thing that I really craved the most when I came here. Because we were kind of abandoned. My parents had to go to work, 2 jobs each. So I became like the parent for the rest of my siblings. I was the oldest. So I started my company with the idea that my dream life back then was to make $3,000 a month. That's the dream life. So if I only made $2,000 a month, that was going to be okay, Right. So I did that. And I also wanted to, having gone through what I went through, I kind of wanted to kind of live the life I wanted to live, because to aspire to be, everything else was just too much for me. So I thought if I could just do what I wanted to do, make a couple of $1,000 a month, it'd be great. I can provide for my family. And I never thought about owning a home or anything like that. And then if I actually hit the jackpot and made $3,000 a month, I could maybe send my kids to college. So that was my dream. And decades later, now I'm sitting here having gone through like an 8-figure career. So I would say that that's the short backstory.
I mean, it's a pretty interesting journey coming from South Korea to the United States, like you said, on a shoestring budget for your parents, and then them both having to go to work in a land that they weren't even used to while leaving all of you at home. That's got to
Right.
be tough on everyone, and I'm sure it built resilience within all of you.
Yeah, it is. It's resilience, but I was too young to really know to have those dreams. And when you're that young, your disappointments, heartaches, all that. Though the memory for those things are pretty short. So we had to learn to speak English. We had no friends, no family, nobody here. So it was all a new thing. And we kind of, we thought America is nothing like what we thought before. First of all, in South Korea, we lived like on a little beach strip. So, the days were pretty idyllic. Like, I watched the sunset, sunrise every day. We didn't have a lot of density there. So it was really, kind of a laid back lifestyle. Then we ended up in East Los Angeles, where kids actually went to school with knives and guns, even back then. And there were sirens everywhere every afternoon at school. In fact, I saw more sirens and police cars probably day one at my school, the very first day, than I had in my whole life back there. So it was pretty rough. But even so, there was something about the American culture, the accepting of everything and everybody, and anybody can be whoever they want to be at some point. So we never really gave up that hope. And we just kept on thinking about what is the one thing that you could do to help yourself for today versus tomorrow. Because as you having been through your world situations, and Afghanistan, Iraq, all that, there's suffering everywhere all around the world. And so I kept that in perspective all the time. And it kind of helped my business mindset, that no matter how tough things were, I had to believe that, God didn't put me on earth so I can just starve and suffer and die a tragic death. I mean, I was just going to have to keep on figuring out what my purpose is for the day. And I did it.
Yeah, I think you've done a great job and you pushed forward. So what made you want to start designing and, of course, selling your own jewelry? Was that something you've seen someone else do, or was that just some vision you had that I'm probably going to be good at this, I can move forward?
I'm glad you were asking me that question. I think a lot of people have never asked that. Basically, when my grandmother was fleeing the North Koreans, basically shooting the South Koreans, because they were like right in Seoul area. And, she ended up literally walking on foot with her 7 kids. And then, she would drop them off at orphanages because she knew she couldn't take all 7 of them with her. So she would drop the youngest ones at the first orphanage because she figured they wouldn't bomb that one. And then she would go as long as she could. And then she'd drop a couple more kids. So, by the time she got to Busan, she only ended up with a couple of the kids that could actually walk on their own. But
wow.
the thing that survived all those, situations was the little pieces of family jewelry that she had. And she held on to them because they, kind of showed family history. This is when so-and-so got married, her little belongings were in this box kind of thing. So it just kind of made an impression on me. And and I was always an artist. I always wanted to be an artist, and I was kind of talented in art. I was not at all talented in a lot of other things like science and biology and math. Like those things just about killed me, But art and literature was really kind of my wheelhouse. And so I thought, the dream of becoming like a painter was going to be just, my dad told me pretty much look at like Van Gogh and Monet, all these people, they all died broke. They didn't actually become rich until they died. So he says forget it. So I thought jewelry industry at that time was really unresponsive to their clients. Most of the people who actually wore the jewelry were women, and the industry was pretty much run by a few men. Just very few people kind of owned the whole industry. And, they didn't listen. They basically had 7-inch bracelets for everybody. They never, if you wanted anything other than 7 inches, you couldn't fit into it because you were only 6.5 or 8 inches. You had to special order, pay more money, wait 8 weeks, all that stuff. So I thought, I could actually offer stylish jewelry that actually personified the person's personality, their budget, their lifestyle, and offer it at like a tenth of a price. And, and I felt like I had the artistic talent to do that. And remember, my goal really was to make a couple $1,000, and I thought I could do it. I thought that wasn't like out of the world dream. So I started it with that idea.
Okay, that's a really good starting point for you, and as well with your artistic background. My daughter's the same way. She can draw like there's no end in time. But when I tell her to do other things like math or science, it was always a battle between the two of us to get her to even open the books or pay attention to it. But she loved art, and she loves Shakespeare and all that stuff. And moving forward, now she's a fitness entrepreneur, I guess we'd call her right now. So she's having fun doing that.
Yay, she's a girl after my heart.
And being in the military, I missed a lot of time with her. So any time I had with her was always pushing her to be better at whatever she was doing. And I always tried to support whatever she was doing and give her positive reinforcement. Still to this day, I do that, even though she's not in the house anymore. She's married on her own, just across town. But I still try to reinforce that and give her that empowerment.
I was just listening to your episode with Brittany Wagner, and I think that, kids, it's not, she kind of personified this belief that kids they're not statistics, they're not numbers. Every kid is individual, and every kid, your daughter could be excelling in literature, but she could be like a below average in math. And that doesn't mean she's a dumb person. That doesn't mean she's not going to succeed in society. It just means that she was gifted in something else. And so I just think that, my hat's off to you in that, you've still empowered her instead of like drilling on things that she can't do. She can't do as well as other people,
Right, because I knew I had a lot of deficiencies in education as I was growing up, because there's only so many things I like to do, and most things I just drew pictures while I was in class because I was bored. to try to get through, and I guess that's where she got the drawing from. My creativity during high school, I guess.
The question is, are you good at Pictionary then?
Some people don't understand when I'm drawing because I'm not that neat when I draw. So that's kind of like my writing. It's horrible.
Yeah. It's an expression, though.
Yes, it's an extension and expression of me.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you started, I know that one of the first questions on your Podmatch page says to ask you the question, how to start business with no money. Is that how you started yours, or did you have some startup capital?
No, I had no startup capital. And in fact, I now coach people how to start their businesses with no money. Even if you have money to burn, I will tell you, don't start with money to burn, because there is so much more joy in discovering what you can do. So, a lot of people will ask me, because jewelry industry is one of the most capital intensive businesses you can start. And it's the most relationship intensive business. If you don't know a diamond dealer, if you don't know a miner or cutter, like you don't ever get the prime source. So what I did was, if you want to make, for example, samples, you want to go to a department store, you want to have a jewelry store, you want to have a selection, you want people to come in and, see, 24 to 36 rings. You want them to see some necklaces, bracelets, whatever. So you're looking at, an average jewelry store has something like a couple of thousand styles. So if you wanted to start a business and you didn't have any samples, well, first of all, every sample, if you have an original thought and you want them to make your drawing into a piece, usually those mold costs, like at master mold, are usually about $300 to $1,200, depending on the complexity of the mold. And it is pretty labor intensive, thing. You got to get an artist who's a technician who is going to, make a silver master mold that could be kind of printed out many times over every time you order it. So think about it this way. If you had 100 samples and every sample cost you $500, that's $50,000. That's before you found out if anybody liked your style. Okay, not a single human being. And I thought, well, that's really stupid. Okay, because 100 styles won't get you in the door with anybody. So if you wanted to get 1,000 styles, that's like, $500,000 then. So for me, that was just a non-starter. So what I did was I drew all my designs out in a beautiful watercolored 3D looking, so I had the top view, the side view, the 3D view, and in actual scale. So it looks like it could actually fit your finger. So I just went to some of the stores. The first two stores I went to were Neiman Marcus on Rodeo Drive, like Wilshire and Rodeo, because I was within the vicinity of it. It's a like a 30-mile drive from where I was living. And I asked the jewelry assistant manager of the jewelry department, if you had something like this, could you sell it? And if you can't, where do you think anybody would buy it at any store? And lo and behold, the manager said, oh my God, like these are beautiful. And none of our clients, I mean, they're mostly movie stars, stylists, the production houses. They don't actually want anything in our cases. They want to see like what the designers are thinking in the pipeline. They want to see something that nobody has. So if we had styles like this, I mean, I would definitely be able to sell it. So then the next question is, how much would they pay for it? So the answer I got was like, it doesn't matter. They'll pay whatever, literally. So then I went to the Saks Fifth Avenue across. It's on the same street, on the same corner. And I got a pretty good, very similar response from her as well. But I realized at that point that isn't America. Okay. That isn't reflective of the American public in general. So I then went to, the small stores, big stores all over Southern California in my car with the drawings. After I was done visiting like 40 different stores, first of all, the Neiman Marcus store assistant manager, she actually did sell a few pieces for me from the drawing, Nice. But yeah, but the other stores actually gave me very good feedback, and I was able to zero it down to like 8 styles that I knew I could sell. So again, this was pretty much getting feedback and a lot of it. So, for example, where there's a broad interest in something. Then once I started getting orders, once I started actually getting actual orders from, regular customers, the department store customers, anywhere from $500 to $5,000, sometimes $20,000. You had to, because I do fine jewelry, so you had to figure out a way to store it. A lot of jewelry stores have those floor to ceiling safes, like bulletproof, fireproof safes. And they would typically have a store, the safe, and then they would have an alarm system, and then they would have a jeweler's insurance, which is like sky high. I couldn't afford it. So the question is, how do I secure, and I was living in kind of a semi-seedy area because that's the rent I could afford, in a 2-bedroom apartment without an alarm system. So I was like, how do I secure my inventory so that first of all, I don't get hit over the head, and secondly, that it wouldn't be stolen, right, at gunpoint. Right. So, I thought about it, and I shopped all the safes. Even the used ones were like $2,500 a pop. The little ones that are used that weren't really all that safe. In fact, a couple of big guys could just pick it up and leave. And I remember still living in this little apartment building. So I thought the best thing I could do really was to go to the bank. So I banked at B of A. And I rented one of those safes that the people can rent. The largest safe actually is pretty big, and it was $120 a year. So I rented 2 of them for all my inventory. And so if you think outside the box, there's all these different ways you can actually start your business with very little money. I could say I started with 0 money. But if you count the $120 or whatever, you could say, I started with less than $1,000. But it's really, it's just having that will and creativity to solve your problems.
Right. Having that desire and drive to make your life better as you move forward. That's what I think pushed you to where you are today. And I mean, $120 for each safe for a year, that's a pretty negotiable price to save your product and save yourself from harm. Right. Especially, like you said, living in a semi-seedy area, any area. Yeah. For a young woman with a lot of jewelry around her, that's not a good area unless you have a weapon or something. So that's good that you were able to do that. And basically that was your stepping stone to get further ahead in the business industry, wasn't it?
Right, right. So, I think that the lesson here is, one of the things that and this wasn't the quote I lived by back then, but, I kind of discovered, ever since I discovered this particular quote, I think it's relevant here. And that is, Nelson Mandela said something to the effect that, he was giving an interview. It wasn't like really a quote, but he was giving an interview, a casual interview with some station out in England. And he said something like, it all seems impossible until it's done. And, if you put that into context, at which time he did this, he was in the middle of like a 30-year prison sentence. And, it might be pretty easy for anyone to think at that point, I'm never going to get out. If you're in, 30 years in prison for whatever reason, and your sentence was 30 years, by year 10, you're thinking, I'm never going to get out. But he basically said, it all seems impossible until it's done. So for me, that phrase meant that no matter how impossible it seems, if you have the desire for something, not getting it done is not an option. So what are you going to do today to get it done? So, it was kind of a pivotal thing because when I started my company, this wasn't an issue. But I think, remember, I went from zero to like $1 million in the first 18 months. And then from the million to 10 million probably in the next 18 months. And then from 10 million to 100 million. So, a lot of people kind of the biggest question a lot of people ask me is like, well, how did you end up at HSN? And, like, what was your business like before then? People don't realize that I actually built a worldwide business in 35 different countries before I ever set foot on HSN.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So in fact, they found me at all these major stores, and they wanted to attract me to their station because I was at Harrods London, Galleries Lafayette, Takashimaya Tokyo, Neiman Marcus, Saks, Fifth Avenue, Bloomingdale's, Macy's, all these stores. And I was on the inside cover of everything. So they, like called me and asked me if I would be, if I would like to go on their channel. And I was like, you guys are called like Home Shopping Club. And, it looks like you're mostly grandma's shop here. And I don't really know like how this is going to fit. And, frankly, I'm an immigrant here. I came here with nothing. And, ending up in a grandma shopping network is kind of like my fear, really, to be honest with you. So no, I don't want to be on it. Yeah. And I don't want to be on TV. I don't want anyone to know who I am or, who my kids are. I mean, I'm scared to death. And so, it took like 5-6 years before I actually went on air after they contacted me.
Oh, wow. So it's a pretty good process there to get you on there.
Yeah. So, I mean, remember, when I started my company, I basically started it so I can spend time with my family. And that was my goal. And that never changed. So even with the $500 million business, I can tell you, I've never missed the first anything. I had like HSN block out the dates that I can't be. I never work on my kids' birthdays, never work on my mother's birthday. I don't work on any of the holidays like, Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving. Those are all, huge. Like the biggest shopping days of the years were all the days I don't want to work. And I didn't do it. I didn't work. They're like, you can make an extra $3 million. And I said, no, but it's off the table. I'm not going to work on those days. But the reason why I had the international distribution before I found HSN is this. I lived in LA. I still live in the West Coast, but not in LA. So I lived in LA all those times. And I got up at 5 every morning because my kids were young. They went to school about 7:45 in the morning, because they got to school about 8:15. So I dropped my kids, to school about 7:45. So between 5 and 6:30 a.m., that is for Europe, it's, midday, 11:30 to 1:30, depending on where you are in Europe. So I contacted them first, because that was the 2 hours I had. And then, every day I had a list of people to, contact, emails and faxes. And not emails, faxes and letters. I sent out 50 letters every single day. So, and then the faxes, because the faxes were like phone lines and they were kind of expensive. So I was very choosy about which faxes I sent. But, I did that every morning. to Europe. And then when I dropped the kids off, I came back about 9 o'clock in the morning. That's like a prime time for New York. That's where a lot of basically the fashion industry, the major buying offices were all in New York. Saks, Bloomingdale's, Macy's, they were all in New York. So I contacted them. And then, like as my day kind of unfolded, I then went to Dallas, which is where, Kay's Jewelers, Zales, they were all, there's quite a few Dillards, they're all in like a Texas, the central time zone. Then I came to LA, which is, so I worked throughout the day based on the time zones. Los Angeles, we still had, quite a few, like Princess Cruises was out here. They were a huge client of mine. So I did all of that. And then I pick up my kids about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I spent between until when they went to sleep, about 8:30, 9 o'clock every night. They did all the soccer, the tennis, the piano, everything they wanted to do, karate. And then I cooked dinner, helped them do with their homework. They went to sleep. And then 9 p.m. my time is like a noon in Asia. So then I, did my Tokyo, Korea, Hong Kong, all the different department stores there because they could do huge volumes there. So, I had this huge business in airport gift shops, all the major department stores worldwide. And I had a huge distribution in Dubai, Bahrain, Sharjah, Abu Dhabi, all those places as well. So it was a very solid business by the time HSN called me.
You had a hustle mentality there to get all that going. You basically spent like 18-hour days getting everything going to make sure you hit every time zone, and actually knowing what time it is everywhere. That's even harder for some people, and especially like these calls here when I'm doing these. I get people from other countries, and I have to do my math on my hand, have my phone up so I know exactly what time it is there, so I don't waste their time, and I take care of them while getting their story out. So
it was funny. Just a couple of days ago, I was on a show. I think he was in New Zealand, and anyway, it was 4 p.m. my time, and I didn't really realize he was in New Zealand because when I booked this thing, it was in New York. So I said, "Well, is that like, are you in New Zealand?" He says, "Yes." He says, "How do you know?" Because I said I can recognize a picture over there. And I said, "Well, what time is it?" Like at 8:30 in the morning. He goes, "Well, how did you know?" Because I said, "Because I did business in Australia all this time." So yeah, because you have to kind of know. So I don't know. I kind of and the other thing too, I just really love. And I've traveled to all these places. I've traveled to every one of these countries I'm mentioning, and spend high quality time getting to know people because you have to know what makes them tick before you can actually design jewelry for them. Culturally, why they buy, how do they celebrate it, who buys it actually for them? Is it a self-purchase or a relative? So I just love learning about cultures, and they have actually shaped. All my travels have shaped the jewelry design itself. I infuse in a lot of the sort of distinctive motifs or things that kind of matter to them. So, it's been a pretty good journey, I would say.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's a great journey, especially knowing the backstory of how your family got to America and what you did to get where you are now. It's an amazing journey, and my hat's off to you for your resilience and your hustle mentality. That's just not something everyone does anymore, to hustle that hard to become successful so that they can spend that time with their family so they don't miss things after seeing what your parents had to go through when they first got here, and you being basically the parent at home.
Yeah, I mean, I spent my time with my daughter today because she has a newborn. The baby's like 8 weeks old, and I was just telling her that when I first came to America, I literally lost my childhood because ever since I was like 13 years old, I remember so my younger brother, because there was 5 kids, 4 girls and a boy, and my brother was the youngest. And my younger brother was like less than a year old. And I took my brother on the bus. I had to take 3 different buses, the 1-year-old. So there's a picture of a 13-year-old taking a 1-year-old to the nursery, like preschool, like a church-owned preschool. And I dropped him off and he would cry. I mean, at the top of his lungs. And I feel like when I was on the first bus coming back, I could hear him cry.
Oh, wow.
And, so that's why I said to, when I was an adult and I had like the dream degrees from USC and UCLA, I was like, no, I'm just not going to do the same thing to my kids that happened to me. So, for me, the one thing about my journey is that I really kind of grew up a lot faster than any child should ever have to. So, there's pros and cons to everything, but, and I don't blame my parents for, abandoning me because they had to put food on the table. But they did instill in me that incredible core value system, that when we had everything taken away, my father said to me, they could take away everything, money, title, your future earnings stream, everything. But what they can't take away from you is who you are, your core values, your integrity, and your dignity. They can't ever take that away from you. So, live how you're supposed to live and never compromise on those things because money is just money. It's, so it was good.
That's great advice from them. And
Yeah.
we're running low on time here. So what advice would you give to a young woman who has that dream and wants to get into making their own designs or make their own business? What's a bit of advice you'd give them?
Believe in yourself. I know that that's a lot harder than actually do it. But really, if you remember, like all of us, you go to a normal hospital, all of us are born the same way. We all come to this earth with nothing. And yet, the minute you're born, you are given everything you need to be successful, to live your maximum potential. And don't let anybody, social media, the so-called experts, all of these people would tell you, unless you know something chic or whatever, like you're never going to succeed. Well, guess what? Those people really haven't succeeded. This is why they're preaching whatever they do. Because if they really had a secret to make $500 million, they wouldn't be coaching it. They'd be actually doing it. So go ahead. What I find interesting is like all these coaches. I wrote this book called $1 Million Hobbies, and when I was trying to pitch it to major publishers, many of them said, we'll give you an advance, and right now it's actually in the revision phases. But when I had to do research on the top selling books on Amazon, I found no book, not a single book written by an actual entrepreneur who's actually started a business. They were like professors, reporters, CEO of some company that always made his money, playing with other people's money, basically. So, believe in yourself. And if you start, just make sure that you manage that risk. And when you fail, and I guarantee you, I don't know what's going to work for your business, but I guarantee you are going to fail many, many times. Yeah, that's the one thing I can guarantee you. But when you fall, make sure you learn to fall forward and get up. And if you don't learn to embrace failures, you will never be successful. So those failures will eventually lead to success, because if you fail 9,000 times, it's 9,000 times, you found 9,000 ways it's not going to work, which means there are very few ways you left. So, and then whenever you start something and you get rejection is just feedback. What I do is when I design my pieces and I call on any account, I don't tell them, hey, I designed this pieces, and what do you think? Even with my books, when I send out like my chapters for review. Like I don't send up the whole book, it's too much, but I'll just send like one chapter to a group and another chapter to a different group. I don't ask them, what do you think? I ask them, hey, here's my latest chapter. I really would love your feedback. Can you please take the time to read it and give me 4 different ways I can improve this manuscript? And what happens is they're then forced to actually read it and forced to, because people will usually try to honor your request, right? They give you 4 different ways you can improve. So I would say that whenever somebody says no, that may actually be a real blessing if you can get feedback out of them. So, just my whole message is, like Nelson Mandela said, it all seems impossible until it's done. Start somewhere, you will learn, and just be patient. You have everything you need. And if you need, more than that, if you need more than what I've been giving you today, I offer, now I'm working on my legacy. I'm not trying to really make money from anybody. my business is still going and it's actually making money by itself. At this point, so basically I took what it takes to start and grow and scale your business so that you could actually have a life, so you don't have to work like in 80-hour weeks. I took 6 different pillars of the building an empire phase of the business. So I give like a free workshop once a month. I can't tell you which, I don't actually have a schedule because my schedule is really crazy. But every month, I'll pick one topic out of the 6 and I do a workshop. And it's limited to only 25 people because I don't want looky-loos. I just want people who are really serious to come in, get real content, real actionable tips. So they, if somebody asks me a question, I want to be able to answer that fully instead of like leading them into some course. So I do, I give you a lot of free feedback. And then I do the $1 Million Hobbies podcast where I highlight people with journeys like myself to come on and share with the audience exactly what it took for them to start, something from nothing and start it. So, I hope that that's my service back to society to, I almost feel guilty living the life I live, because I feel like this country is so full of immigrants. And we know immigrants work hard. They work hard. Their lives are tough. And I completely sympathize with that. And yet, so many people work harder than I do. They're smarter than I am. And somehow I ended up kind of hitting the jackpot. And I feel like I've been lucky and I've been blessed. And I want to pay that back. So that's why I'm actually on this show and every other, thing that I do on my website. If you go to my website, literally there's nothing you can buy. You can't even buy jewelry on my website because, there are 70,000 people selling my jewelry all across the globe. So I don't need to be telling you to buy it. My website is just educational and engagement. And I want you to kind of enjoy your journey, visiting my site and just kind of getting to know me and other people. And that's it.
So what is your website so the audience can go there and see you?
Oh, it's www.victoria, like Queen Victoria, Wieck. But it's spelled WIECK.com. And if you Google it, the first thing that's going to come up is all my jewelry people. But, there's like, I don't know, 35,000 people or so visiting that site every day. But you can still pretty much sign up for anything that's free because it's really valuable content.
Awesome. Victoria, this was great chatting with you for the last about 35, 40 minutes. I learned a lot from you, and your journey, like I said, is exceptional. It's something that people need to look at and say, she went through it and took all those steps. I can do it too. And I applaud you and thank you for being on.
Thank you for inviting me. Until next time.
Have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You know how we do this. Thanks for taking some of your time to spend with us on
Fit Nation.
Be sure to hit that subscribe button and share the link as much as possible. If you want to, please become a supporter to help us carry this thing on. We appreciate you. If you know someone that brings that energy, has a great story, is an up-and-comer in the industry of music, in the arts, have them reach out to us on themisfitnation.com. We will get back to them within one day and get them on here so they can share their story with the world. As always, till next time, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are
Fit Nation.